That's our future. Embrace it.
Embrace the garbage.
Speaking of garbage, let's bring it back around the horn to Brad Shoemaker.
Did you beat it?
Brad, what's going on? Brad has been playing, for those not playing along at home, Brad has been playing Resident Evil 6 for review. Resident Evil 6
frantically
out this week on a variety of platforms.
You made it sound like you were done this morning.
Out today. Well, I finished the main 3 campaigns, which is what they have advertised that game consisting of.
Mm-hmm. What are the 3 main campaigns?
There's a 4th campaign.
What are the 3 main campaigns?
Leon S. Kennedy, Chris Redfield, Jake Mueller.
Who's Jake Mueller?
Also known as Jake Wesker.
Oh, okay.
Because they refer to him both ways.
They just, whenever they want to.
I don't know. And they actually only say Jake Wesker one time in the game. Like it almost made me wonder if it was just like somebody screwed up the line reading or there was an error in the script and they just didn't catch it.
Like in the original script, it was all Jake Wesker, and then someone did a find and replace for Mueller, but that one instance of Wesker was misspelled, so it didn't get caught.
You could think of a very thin justification for them to change it toward the end like they do. But I feel like that would just be making one of many, many excuses for this game.
You don't think that it's like that one instance of them calling him Wesker is supposed to be like super significant?
Well,
that's
what I'm saying.
Off?
That's what I'm saying. You could read it that way.
Oh, okay.
It's just it's done so poorly that it's hard to believe it was intentional.
You're saying it could be as much a fuck up as it is some portentous moment.
Yes.
And it sounds like that sums up Resident Evil 6.
Kinda, yeah. Man, holy shit.
So walk us through the whole, from the first time you saw the Resident Evil 6 trailer.
Oh, I'm still somewhat at a loss for words. I was super pumped.
Which was all explosions.
After that trailer came out.
President Evil.
You fucking shoot the president.
In the trailer.
Kill the president.
There's no bones about it. They're like, you're going to fucking shoot the president because he turns into a goddamn zombie.
See, I had the opposite reaction to that trailer. It was like, they're doing all of the things I don't want them to do with Resident Evil 6.
Dude, that ship sailed a long time ago.
I know.
Like, since 4, it's been an action series. But
I guess, but it looked like a shitty action series in that trailer.
That's the problem. Like, if you're going to make an action game, at least make a good one. They didn't even do that. That president stuff, what you saw in that trailer, and then what's in the demo that's been out for months, is the extent of your interaction with or any backstory on the president.
Bill of goods.
That's it.
Unless you shoot an emblem in the background and then look it up in the library.
Any context given to the events and characters and places and all that stuff in the story comes by finding collectibles, which you then go back to a menu at the main screen and read a bunch of text from. So, storytelling, not top shelf.
You don't say.
No, and it's not the same. It's not the same president from like in RE4. The reason he goes after Ashley is because that's the president's daughter. Different president.
That's what I assumed. Like people were razzing us in the quick look. They're like, "Oh, you rescued his daughter 2 games ago. What are you talking about?"
No, what I looked into, it's a different president.
It's been long enough that I assumed a new president had been elected since then.
Yeah. This game takes place in 2013.
Yeah, it's not even now. It's next year. We still got a year to go.
Future.
We still got a year to go.
Yeah, but do we know when Resident Evil 4 took place?
Probably. I mean, we don't.
I think they put a date on it.
Like,
Did they?
Yeah.
It came out in 06.
There's a timeline.
I bet it was like 07-ish, 08, something like that. I don't know.
Anyway, that's unimportant.
Man, that is not even like 87th on the list of this game's problems.
Context is a huge problem of that game, but it is not the most important problem.
Yeah. I mean, everything else about the game that is bad to middling could get a pass if it was a fun game to play. It's just not.
What is the top problem?
It plays like shit. It plays horribly.
What do you do
from start to finish?
And how is it different from Resident Evil 5? Well, it seems like a lot of the stuff, like surface level, looking at it, having played some RE5 and little bits of Resident Evil 6, like it's got that same stuff. The melee attacks up there, up close, that kind of sometimes don't hit.
Yeah,
that
but
seemed to happen in RE5
it
also.
Does, but somehow all of that stuff feels and plays worse than it did in the last 2 games.
How?
I have no idea. Well,
I just mean mechanic. I don't mean like how did they get away? How did they fuck it up? I mean just like mechanically, what makes it different? That okay? So you liked Resident Evil 5?
Yes.
Why don't you like Resident Evil 6?
More than most people, I think.
Like what is it about?
It's hard. It would. I could sit here for an hour and enumerate examples of why this game is clunky as shit, but it's just 100 different things of like your melee attack missing and you're stuck in an animation of you stomping while a guy is jumping on you and eating your face.
Didn't that happen in RE5?
Not in the same way.
Okay.
Not in a way that you felt helpless all the time.
Okay.
It's stuff like
so it's like stun lock sort of stuff. I mean, you talk about like
it's totally stuff
when you're
like
going
that.
through like the healing animate, or when you're being helped up by your partner,
right?
Because it's got a down but not out system, and being locked into animation that then leads to you just immediately getting hit and die.
When you come out of that down but not out, when they revive you, you're in kind of an intermediate state where you have like a one glowing block of health, which means like one more hit of anything and you're dead. And like numerous times I would come out of that revival in the middle of being hit by something. Like there's an enemy early in the game that can hurt you by screaming. All it does, like if you're anywhere near it and it screams, you take damage. Mm-hmm. Like I would be revived into the middle of one of those screams,
and it would just hit.
Like frame one of me having control again, I would take a hit and you're just dead.
So it seems like that. It's a lot of stuff like that of just animations getting in the way of.
But it's even worse than that because that happens in a lot of games. You know? But those games systems at least feel sensibly put together. Like this is an extra layer above that of just feeling like it was never play tested.
Right.
Like they didn't figure out how to like tweak camera angles to make it like you'll come back from cinematics all the time where the camera is at a completely different angle pointed at something completely different than where you left it.
Right.
And often not even pointed at what you need to be worrying about and you have like 2 seconds to respond to or something.
The game also at weird times
disorienting all the time.
Will take the game will switch from a dynamic camera angle that you have some influence over to a fixed camera angle that completely is beneficial to this, like I guess the cinematic nature of what they're trying to show, but is totally distraught for you as the player trying to accomplish your task.
Distracting. Like that happens over and over where you're like frantically trying to move the right stick to look at something, and like they're making you stare at this helicopter that's flying by. While you just want to be like navigating the environment or something. That stuff's really
as opposed to like a game like like Gears of War or other games that have found solutions to that of like here these are optional things we want you to look at. If you hold B, then your character will lock on to that, but we're not going to take the control away from you if you are in the middle of doing something. And this game constantly takes control away.
It seems
from
like
you.
if it's not just animation and that sort of stuff getting in the way, then it's QuickTime events, right? That seems to be the other.
A lot of really bad QuickTime events.
And they're bad, and they happen all the time. You cannot go more than a couple of minutes.
And these
without
are
having
these are full-on cinematic QuickTime events. Like this thing happens, a rocket comes at you, you hit the button to get out of the way.
They're also wrapped up in every interaction with an enemy that's not shooting it.
Yeah.
Right,
So any kind of melee.
You're kind of counting the melee stuff as one of these.
But even when if a zombie shambles up to you, when it goes to grab you, the amount of damage that is taken off is based on your reaction to the QuickTime event.
So it's like how fast you wiggle the controller.
Yeah, so you lose one just because you've walked into it, and then you could lose more than that if you don't react.
And like right off the bat, you're fighting enemies that you can unload a whole clip into, and like they don't flinch, they don't do anything. Like they absorb the bullets and
they're taking damage,
presumably take the damage, but just run right through this whole clip and jump on you and start eating your face. And
now that sounds like something a zombie would do.
But it's incredibly frustrating.
Really bad.
Like when you have a shotgun, for example, and the shotgun does not have the spread that you expect a shotgun to have.
Or the kick.
And so you'll get into the couple of situations where it presents like 8 zombies in front of you, which is pretty infrequent. But when it does happen, that's the time that you use the shotgun.
Sure.
And you'll hit the shotgun, and then just like 2 zombies will just not have any sort of reaction to the bullets and the spread, and just shamble forward and then knock you around. And then if your guy doesn't come to, your co-op partner doesn't come to help you because they are not reliable at all. I will say that the co-op partner,
the AI partners.
Yeah, the AI partners are reliable in the sense that they are indestructible and have infinite ammo. So in terms of just actually taking out enemies and you hanging back, they can be super useful.
They do a pretty good job of killing stuff. So like you never have to worry about them getting into trouble.
Right.
Except when you get into trouble or you need to open a door.
Yeah, if you need to open a co-op door and they're busy. So like that was the moment that I totally decided I hated the game about 2-3 hours into it. With
cemetery.
First, like at the end of the cemetery, you have to basically survive in this courtyard outside a church for like 5 minutes.
Right.
While these guys inside hem and haw about whether they're going to let you in or not. And after you survive long enough, they're like, all right, fine, we'll let you in. Get over here and open the door. And it's a co-op door, so you both have to post up on it to open it. Like 3 times in a row, I kept sitting there hitting open door and waiting for my fucking partner to come over and help me.
Right.
And he just kept fucking around with enemies. And then I died while I was just like desperately trying to get this door open. And it doesn't, it's never clear about whether enemies are going to respawn infinitely or you'd be better off killing everything.
So it does have some cases where enemies do respawn.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a number of instances, and the game does not even like if there was some throwaway dialogue that implied, hey, we should probably keep moving, like these enemies keep coming, then at least the game would give you a sense of, oh, okay, this is a sequence where I just need to keep on moving, as opposed to a lot of these games where, because the ammo and items are so scarce, you kind of want to take out everybody to make sure you can scrounge up everything in the world or anything that the enemies drop. Because in this game, the drops from the creatures themselves are numerous, and you can get skills that increase those drops. So in those situations where you're just sitting there throwing bullets into these enemies and they never stop, you really should just move on. Yeah. And the game doesn't give you any sort of like clue. Hey, maybe just keep going forward.
I mean, it's terrible about giving you feedback on what you're doing just across the board. Like the boss fights, especially. Pretty much every major boss fight in the game, you just flounder your way through it, not being able to tell if you're actually like doing what it wants you to do.
Because of no reaction,
there's
no feedback.
There's no health bar. There's no like visible like animation that indicates you're doing the right thing. Like,
no feedback. I mean, it's one of those things that like you could explain away, like you could no prize it and say like, oh, they're zombies. Of course they don't react, but that's increasingly like one of the things that is kind of becoming unacceptable in games is the notion of just like not getting any feedback for your actions.
Right.
It's one of the things that I actually thought was really smart about Borderlands 2 is they added a lot of things like that. Like, it's a lot more noticeable when your shield breaks or something like stuff like that. That they've added. It's like, oh man, that's really smart. And that seems like it's maybe not yet, but going to be one of those unforgivable sins over the next couple of years. Like, okay, if you're not giving proper feedback about the status of the player or the status of the enemies and that sort of stuff, that's
it's basically building a lot of contextual information into the world that you're just going to absorb on like a subconscious level. Like the Borderlands shield effect is really good because it's like a full screen like shatter effect.
Yeah, like
there's no way you can miss that your shields are down in that game.
Right.
Because like it's right in your face.
Exactly.
Like, you're not having to stare at a meter or like look and see what color your shield icon is.
Smear shit all over the screen. Yeah. It's a good smart system.
Right. And so you don't even get like flinches off a lot of these bosses. Like you can't and like there's
the T-Rex battle where it's this creature that kind of looks like a T-Rex where it is you can use barrels and that'll get a reaction out of the creature, but then once you run out of the barrels, that's not enough to knock it down and it's not clear if you're pouring bullets into it, if that's doing anything, or if the third character that you don't have control over, who is in a helicopter, who is able to get, like, there's feedback coming from the way they're able to shoot the back of the creature, but you can't really get to that. Mm-hmm. So what ends up happening is that because the co-op partners or the AA partners are super useful, I ended up just, like, hanging back, waiting till the AI partner put in enough bullets into the spot that clearly, I guess, only they could hit. And then eventually, a cutscene would trigger, and I would just move on.
And then you do the quick time event to kill the boss, and that's it.
Yeah,
there are bosses in the game that you can just like damage and kill by shooting any which way, just like however you want.
Right.
There are bosses that you have to shoot certain weak points and then go through multiple stages to kill. Mm-hmm. And then there are bosses you can only kill by doing like a melee quick time event, and it never tells you which one it is. Like it's just totally up to you to waste a bunch of ammo trying to figure out which one it is.
Yeah.
How you're supposed to do it.
This seems like little lines of dialogue, little things like that.
So the last boss of Chris's campaign has got to be one of the worst last bosses I have ever fought in my life because it was exactly one of those. It goes through multiple stages. It's totally picky about hitting two specific weak points to send it into this other stage where it does something different, and then you have to shoot it a certain way that way, and then use a melee attack. Like it's really complicated. And the first time I got to it, there is a line. It's vague. It's not super descriptive, but it at least kind of points you in the right direction.
Yeah.
But when I was playing, it got cut off by another line of dialogue. It was on the screen for like half a second. And then he yelled something else out about something that was going on.
Right.
And it cut off, and I didn't see what he said. I should have just reloaded the checkpoint, but cue like 20 minutes of wasting all my ammo on this thing trying to figure out what to do to it.
Right.
And the solution ended up being shooting it when it was in a form that looked like the bullets were all ricocheting off of it. It goes into like a cocoon state.
Oh, wow.
And when you shoot it, it looks exactly like it does when you shoot like armor-plated enemies, like they're just bouncing off. I was like, well, that can't be right. Totally right. Like that was what you're supposed to do. It's just stuff like that constantly in this game.
It sounds like this game was made, like clearly resources like Capcom, poured all of the money and developers that they could into this thing.
Super clear. Like it is clear that 600, like when the idea that 600 people worked on this is not a shocking thing at all.
But it seems like they don't, like, it was put together by people who, like, okay, they don't necessarily understand, but they've seen the systems that were in place in RE4 and 5.
Yeah.
And they've seen, like, popular Western shooters, but they implement the systems, but they don't understand why.
Or they're just poorly implemented. Like they're like.
I mean, but what I'm saying is like it's crazy. Like there's this high level of like this kind of complex design, this pretty advanced system or series of systems that they've put together, but like the why they would do it like seems like that step is missing. It's like you do it because that was the last game, or you do it because that's what's popular in games.
That's
like,
totally what I get.
Why would you do that? Why would you have all this stuff be QuickTime events?
I mean, there are times
like
in the game.
There was a point in Resident Evil's past where someone that was making these decisions knew why that happened,
or why it's fun.
It was Shinji Mikami.
Yeah,
and then he left.
But but that.
And then who did
that element's
5?
gone.
Was it
Jun Takeuchi, who is a smart dude.
Yeah.
For whatever things I didn't like about 5, it was not necessarily like the base mechanics of it.
Like 5 plays fine. Like I understand people have issues with it. I liked it more than most, but like it is a functional game.
Yeah.
Like this very frequently does not feel functional.
But I think that's the key distinction to make is that it has the stuff that 5 had, but 5 implemented it in a way that made sense.
5 knew what it was trying to be. It was trying to be RE4.
Sure.
This game's trying to be all things to all people. It's just across the board. It's crazy. I mean, there are times when it's an old Resident Evil game with like slow shambling zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much the entirety of Chris's campaign is just Gears of War. Like there are even instances of like there is literally cut to slow motion, shoot this hostage taker in the head before he shoots the hostage that he's holding.
Like after you
straight out of Call of Duty,
kick open a door,
not quite
breaching
on the nose, but it's exactly that scenario. Like just like it feels like they're just like grabbing everything they can.
So that's
from every
why
popular action game.
That's why the 3 campaigns, right? So they could have like
sort of
different play styles.
Because that's when they would pitch this game in like different press events, they would they implied that you'd want to play all the campaigns to get a best understanding of the story.
Right.
But the idea was that, well, look, if you are just a diehard early RE fan, like play Leon, and then you'll get like a good sense of the story. You won't get all of how it fits together, but you'll get the kind of play experience that you've been looking for out of just playing Leon's campaign. And the way that the arcs of the stories play out, at least in Leon's, I haven't played through the completion of the other ones, they act as though they're their own vignettes and they've finished out their tale, and that these ostensibly could be their own stories. They're really bad stories on their own.
Right, but they at least conclude.
They conclude and have sort of, they wrap up.
The ending of Leon feels like just the ending of a game. Like it's done. Like you're finished.
Like
and
roll the credits. And it does. They roll credits.
Yeah.
When you finish each of the campaigns, they roll credits, which is this implicit design decision to say, like, you're over. Right. Unless you'd like to go see what else we have to offer.
And when they first started showing the game off, when I first saw it, that's when they first started talking about, like, yes, they have an order in mind for the campaigns. Like, they want you to go Leon, Chris, Jake for that stuff.
But you can still approach it from any order, those 3?
Yeah. I think everything would pretty much make an equal amount of sense if you played them in any order. But, I mean, it is implicitly saying play Leon first because he's right at the top of the list.
I guess, but the way they present it on the screen is
just
like
an ordered list.
Okay,
like
but you could hop to any of those. But there is obviously they present it in a way that this is probably the order that you want to go in.
And I feel like, it's hard to know, I mean, talking through a translator and that sort of stuff, but the implication that I got out of it was that there would be difficulty differences, that, the Jake campaign would be,
I mean,
harder.
Oh, I was going to say, I played Leon, Chris, Jake, and I don't do this often, but I have to get, I needed to get through this game to review it. Like, I played through the Jake campaign in one sitting. That's like 6 to 8 hours of shit.
Yeah.
I thought Jake was the easiest of the 3, and I think it's because...
Was it because you had
basically
gotten better at the game?
Figured out how not to get fucked by the game constantly.
Right. Yeah.
But Chris's campaign is immediately more approachable than Leon's because it's a lot more ranged shooting.
Right.
It's a lot of, frankly, straight up taking cover and shooting at enemies who are shooting back at you.
Yeah.
So it is just more of a Gears of War,
which sounds like a Resident Evil game.
Kind of experience. It's a more familiar experience. Like with the Leon stuff, it's a lot more zombies who attack you with melee, and you have to get in really close with them, and that leads to you getting caught in a lot of grapples.
Which in a Resident Evil context, that sounds like the most familiar experience.
That's what.
Mobs are
for.
like that's like the definition of like what immediately impressed people at 4, other than like the controls was this idea of a mob of enemies that you somehow have to control. It was very effective in 4 and just not effective at all in 6.
It's not like the weapons are not the tools you need to deal with that threat.
They can
be well,
but also the enemies in 4, like if you like, I know Jeff, you didn't care for that game of the aiming, but like the way the enemies reacted was so specifically designed that if you did get the controls down, if you did know how the laser sight worked,
Right.
you could handicap a guy at the knees.
Yeah,
You could
totally.
If a guy was wielding something in his arm, you took him out. You took out his
Right,
left
yeah.
arm. Like it was once you got those controls down, you could control a mob by targeting specific parts of enemies, and that was the brilliant part about that game. And
It just felt
they
right.
don't have any of that in 6.
Like that game felt right. This game feels wrong. Like I really don't know a plainer way to say it. This game just does not feel right.
And also 5 to a lesser extent, but definitely 4 and previous entries in the series, 1 and 2, like they felt like I had a vision. Like I don't want to put it all on Shinji Mikami. Like there was whole teams that made this stuff.
Yeah.
But you play 6 and it just feels like they're pandering to this globalization audience by picking up popular archetypes of gameplay styles and shoehorning them into Resident Evil, as opposed to saying, this is the game we want to make. It sounds more like, I guess this is what our fans want now, and this is what's popular. So how can we mold this big franchise onto these popular game types? And what you end up with is just this muddled mess that I don't think pleases anybody.
Yeah, it's hard to know their intent with that stuff,
Right.
And ultimately, it doesn't really matter. But talking to some of those guys about it, it definitely, I mean, we spent time talking about Western shooters a lot. They were interested, like, oh, are you playing Battlefield? Like, what are you playing? Like they seemed very keenly aware and eager to talk about what people in the States were playing.
It just seems like a weird approach. I mean, I get if you want to study these games because these games are important, what lessons can we take for them? Or is it like, but do they even like playing those games? And instead you have these people that are making games where they're having to study what's popular and not being able to take away the right lessons because ultimately that's maybe not the game they would make. I mean, that's just after playing Tokyo Jungle, which is like, it's hard to read. I don't want too much into intention, but you play a game like Tokyo Jungle, which has like very clear intent, design decisions that are specifically funneled around what they wanted to accomplish with the scope.
And design decisions that support each other. I mean, that seems like the grossest offender here. And you talk about Resident Evil is just the notion that like the shooting system and the animation and stuff just clashes with all these other systems, that it doesn't feel like a fluid, like well thought out design.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
it's very it's very clumsy. It's very like stop and go.
Yeah.
It feels disjointed, just clunky. It's just a miserable experience to play.
But yeah, I mean, Tokyo Jungle, I mean, it's a weird comparison to make, but
it just has a very clear vision that it executes
it's a
upon.
singular focus. It's like they're going to get
this is what we want to do.
They're going to nail this one thing.
And these systems that we're developing are this support of this narrow vision of animals surviving in this apocalyptic world where there are other animals. So all the systems support that.
Yeah.
The way the gameplay loop works, the way the hunger system works, everything is in support of making that loop more interesting and more fun for the player and giving them tools for that. And RE6 just feels like there's a bunch of stuff and it was mashed together and it's all in some ways really well made. Like it's a beautiful game. Like it is gorgeous, but even the stuff that people clearly spent a ton of time and money and effort on isn't used very effectively.
If you step back and look at this thing, you'd have, like, if you ask yourself, like, who is this for? What need is this serving? Like, is it a scary game? Is it an exciting, like, cinematic game? Is it a game that rewards, like, skilled kind of, mastering the combat mechanics and getting really good at it? Like, it doesn't do a really good job of any one of those things, but it's like kind of trying to be all of them at the same time. It's just.
Is it actually scary?
No,
not a single jump scare is effective, and they don't even try it that often.
Yeah,
because I mean,
they really aren't even going for
4 and 5 for as much more like shooters that they became.
4 was tense. 4 was not scary in the RE1, RE2 sense, but it was tense.
Yeah, they built good tension. They had good suspense.
Yeah.
Good atmosphere in both. Like even 5, like the early parts of 5 where you're walking around, it's like this place is fucked up and stranger in a strange land.
Hey man, the chainsaw guy, that's a fucking awesome design. Like that is a creepy creature that they introduced early in the game.
And you'd have enough, like the lack of context works to that game's advantage, to that setting's advantage, because you're like, I don't know what's going on, and that in and of itself is scary. Because you don't know what's going to come next. You don't know how these entities are going to react to your presence or to your actions. Like that was super effective, even if they weren't banking huge on jump scares. But
by contrast, in 6, you'd never know what's going to come next, but you can be sure it's going to blow up. Like it's just nonstop fucking massive explosions everywhere you go, to the point that like
oftentimes for no reason.
Half the time you can't even tell what
explosions
caused.
are pretty fucking scary.
I mean, you literally half the time can't even like pinpoint what blew up. Like it's just a massive ball of fire occurred in front of you, regardless of the source of it.
Yeah.
See, I guess that doesn't even inherently, like, you have expectations for a Resident Evil game. at a certain level, but if we were not talking about Resident Evil, that wouldn't sound bad.
No, it's fine for a game that does it well, but it's not Resident Evil.
Does it feel like, I guess, like, maybe it's a weird thing, but does it feel like too ambitious in a sense? Like they try to do too much, spread themselves thin,
sure.
even with 600 people, somehow found a way to spread themselves too thin?
I have to assume that like 80% of those people, 78%, something like that, had to just be like contract artists because to say nothing about how good this game is, I don't know what possessed them to make so much of it. Like, it's as long as like 3 modern action games. Like
it's about as long as Borderlands.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, of the cinematic variety,
yes,
of the variety where like every segment of the game that's stitched together had like care put into the way the events were scripted, and special effects were created for each little set piece. Yeah. Borderlands is a lot more like they had mission editing tools that they sat down and made a whole lot of good content with, but it's like it's probably not
it's a different kind of game. It's a different kind of storytelling
to make stuff like that.
But I'm just saying, like in terms of like it's you know.
It's crazy that this game is 30 hours.
I mean, they sell millions of copies of these games at 8, 10, 12 hours. I mean, I don't remember 5 being all that insanely long. I don't know what made them want to cram this thing so fucking full of stuff.
So here's a question for you.
I think that's a noble gesture in a sense. I mean, if you look at the length of it, but it only works out if the content you're creating and the systems you're implementing actually all work.
Sure,
then it just becomes...
Well, you know what?
Like it's way more depressing.
So here's my question.
Actually, before you move on,
okay. No, it's about this
thing. Well, actually, go ahead.
My question is there a good 15-hour game in here?
No, but it's better.
I think so. Yeah.
You think
if it's got mechanical, just straight up.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If they fixed all of the control issues,
if they fixed all the control issues, it'd probably be a pretty awesome 30-hour game.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know. The story is junk.
The story's not
It's
great.
not even good fan service. It has zero context for existing.
Dude, you're not going to sell me on the idea that previous Resident Evil games weren't also junk.
You're right.
But it was like the Resident Evil games have always been fun B-movie nonsense. And they have gotten further. Like, it's not like, believe me, as someone that watches a lot of B-movies, like I know the difference between like good B-movie and a shitty B-movie. And they got so wrapped, like at least... with like MGS4 and RE5, like they found ways to wrap up their own bullshit. Like even if it's retconning the hell out of it, they found ways to end their own bullshit. And I can respect that to a certain extent. But like it's not fun nonsense anymore. It's just nonsense for the sake of being nonsense, and like that's not entertaining.
This game feels like it has no justification for its own existence. Like 5 capped off Umbrella. It explained everything that's ever happened since the founding of that company.
Yeah.
It showed you who the guy was that started it all. It ended the whole Wesker thing. Like, it's all done. Fiend. Like, don't make any more fucking games in that storyline, and yet they did. Like, they came up with a new Umbrella. They made up Wesker's, like, long-lost son and crammed him in there.
New virus.
Like,
the C virus.
I mean, dude, they probably still got, like, at least 20 letters of the alphabet left to go, right?
Yeah.
Like,
there's the T virus, the C virus,
and then aren't there some 2-letter viruses?
There's the I can't remember
that come up in 3 or something.
Every game a new virus, but it doesn't feel like it fits cleanly in this fiction because it felt like they had finished all that stuff.
Right.
Like, I understand that,
but the passage of there's supposed to be some passage of time. I mean, you come upon Chris and he's
down on his luck,
right? I mean,
hard drinking.
I just feel like the idea that the story feels so forced fits into this broader narrative about the game's design is that it all feels forced.
It's not that the continuing missions of Chris and Leon is an implausible scenario. It's that what they came up with for the scenario. It's like just a new Umbrella, just another Wesker. Like, that's the best you could come up with.
Right.
I'll give, like, whatever else you think of 4, you give it a lot of credit for, like, upending everything they had ever done. Like, Umbrella in 4 is reduced to like 2 lines in the prologue. And they never talk about it again.
I mean, that's
totally new villains, new zombies.
That is the most depressing thing about me not liking Resident Evil 4 and not being able to just like handle the way it did its shooting. Was that everything else about it looked fucking incredible, and it was like finally like, oh man, like I didn't like Resident Evil 1 through 3 because I don't like the tank controls, like everything about the way it moved.
Right.
And Resident Evil 4 seemed like they were very much like, okay, fine, we're going to make a modern game, we're going to bring this into the next generation.
Right.
And by all accounts, a huge success, but I can't get past my specific issue with it.
Right.
it's really too bad.
Right.
But it challenged it. That was ambitious in the right way. It challenged like we're literally going to change everything that you identify with Resident Evil.
Except Leon's hair.
Well, it was better than ever.
Got the hair.
It's a nice jacket too.
Still good. But you're right though. I mean I feel like it was almost an insult to what they did with 4 because like 5 was already pushing its luck by going back to the well on the Umbrella stuff.
Yeah.
After they had totally thrown it out, but
That's one of those cases though where like everyone. No one is ever happy, right? Resident Evil 4, changes things up, does all this stuff, and then all the questions suddenly become, but what about Umbrella?
I don't know if that's actually true, though. I think that was more just desperation in the post-Mikami area.
That's how
it was easier to be like, look, okay, rather than trying to continue what 4 was doing story-wise or inventing a whole new fiction that let me take some of these characters, let's just go back to the Umbrella stuff, because that's easier when we need to focus on just making a good game and not worry about all the ancillary elements. Like the stories of I think that was purely just
exactly my
Isn't it nice that they at least wrapped that stuff up?
It is.
I mean, if they just left it hanging and just needed 4, like that's...
I'm not blaming them for doing it. I'm just saying then to go back to that well again in 6 just reeks of not having a clear direction for what this franchise needs to become or where it should go. Because clearly it's not going away. There will be a Resident Evil 7, whether it's called 7.
Right.
I hope it's not. I hope it's just called Resident Evil or something else.
But Resident Evil 7 takes place in the far-flung future. You're on another planet.
And there's Mako.
Think about it.
Cybertown.
Cyber zombies.
Yeah. It takes place
Cyber
in
zombies? Yeah,
Cyber zombies. Yes, they're zombies full of computer viruses.
Zombie Eris comes and she is already dead. And then you go snowboarding.
And then she comes back to life, and that's the big twist.
Sure.
My all 7s theory. They all take place in the same universe. What do you think? Once you get to 7, you're so out of ideas that you just join up with all the other 7s.
All right, fine. We'll be part of that one now.
The Killer 7.
Yep, Killer 7, totally part of it. You're just the different personalities.
Right.
It's all tied together.
Great.
Obviously. It all makes sense, man.
Yeah.
I would play that.
Dynasty Warrior 7.
Yep. I would play
takes
that.
place in future space China.
Great.
Just happens to look an awful lot like our historical China.
FIFA 07.
Football, you say.
Follow the money.
Madden 07.
Yep.
Just that version of the game.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I'm still just brimming with
What? Get it out.
Bullshit.
Let's suck the venom out.
There's
sucks,
so much
man.
bullshit in this game.
And it totally sucks that it sucks. Like I
know.
want to make it clear, like, like the quick look was through, like, filled with like a lot of venom. This has been filled with a lot of venom. Like, this is not fun.
No.
Like spending 30 hours of your life and then spending hours of your life afterwards tearing down a game that is part of a franchise that you've spent untold amounts of hours enjoying and wanting to see them do, great and interesting things with. Like, none of this is enjoyable. Like, this sucks that this game is not any good.
The criticism we've been getting of, like, oh, it seems so excited to hate on it. It's like, this is not fun at the expense of the game. This is catharsis. This is a stitch and bitch because, like you said, you spend this long playing a game that's crap. Like, what else are you going to do? Like, you need some kind of release. It's like, I mean, I wanted this game to be good more than anybody. It's not rewarding or fun or exciting that it turned out to be shit.
At least you liked 5. Like, I didn't care for 5.
Right.
So, like, I was in a position to, well, if it was more of 5 that I might not like 6 just based on that precedent.
Right.
And it's, like Dragon's Dogma, earlier this year, that is a game that gets most of the other parts of it wrong, like the story and the world, but the combat is astounding and supports the enjoyment of that game for dozens of hours. I've played like 35 hours of that game, totally based on the fact that the combat was really, really fun. And that's a situation where they got the mechanics right.
Right.
And the other stuff, while wouldn't it have been great if it was like Skyrim and had all this other stuff, would have made a better game, but it was okay, because at the end of the day, if video games have fun, interesting, challenging mechanics, it can support itself with all the other stuff on the side. I mean, this is not the case with Resident Evil.
That makes perfect sense because it is the one unique trait of the medium, is the interactivity. It's like you are engaging with this game by your own agency. You're controlling what happens on screen. So if doing that is awesome, then who cares if the rest of it is shit,
Right.
Like a game made out of stick figures with no story whatsoever, if it's fun to play, is still awesome.
Yeah.
And at some point, it's just interesting. I mean, just looking at the health of Capcom overall and kind of what they've been going through as a company and how they've been.
They've bled a lot of their talent.
Yeah, exactly. Like they've had a lot of people take off over this generation, I guess I'd say.
And they had, 4 or 5 years ago, they had arguably the highest concentration of design talent easily in Japan.
Yeah, totally.
And one of the highest in the world. Like,
and they seemed like they were on the verge of figuring out, the transition of just like, okay, here's how to globalize development the right way.
Dead Rising, Lost Planet, like they started off this generation being like, we know what the fuck we're doing.
Exactly.
Like, Dead Rising was the first 360 game that I looked at and I was like, holy shit, this is like a really new thing. Like, they're doing something unique.
They looked like they were poised to just like
empty framework.
Yeah.
They were the first Japanese developer to figure out, hey, if we get this middleware that can support all the different types of games we make, we're going to streamline our process, get it out on different platforms.
And Lost Planet was fucking, for the time, was gorgeous.
God,
it's still pretty. Like it's
I remember
it's a good looking game.
Seeing that being played at E3 the year that they first showed it, and just like standing in the middle of the Microsoft booth and just being fucking jaw dropped.
Yeah, totally.
Just like the quality and just the scope of it. Yeah, the scale of everything was like, look at how huge that thing is and all this detail and everything's moving super fluidly. Like I had never seen anything like
It was one of those next gen moments.
Yeah,
like, okay,
absolutely.
This is why we spend all this money and play all these crappy games at launch, is because this is where we get to go.
Finally, we're getting the payoff.
Yeah.
Finally, we're starting to see it.
This game doesn't even use that engine to its full effect. Like there are parts of it that look amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, there are certain scenes that somebody obviously put a lot of care into framing and lighting and just setting up to look really dramatic. But like the frame rate is almost consistently bad. It's usually sub 30 from what I've seen of it. A lot of bad textures here and there. It's so.
And from what you've seen of it is, in fact, the entire game.
Pretty much all.
The last bits of the fourth campaign, right?
So, yeah, I'm almost at the end of, should I say who it is?
I mean, they came out and
they
announced it once.
It says right on the back of the box, 4 separate campaigns with 4 unique characters, which are not all that unique. But it's Ada. She's all running through the story.
She's the common thread throughout the campaign.
So the counterpoint I wanted to make about my own statement about the length of this game being excessive is that they didn't actually make as much of this game as it seems like they did. Because by the time you get to Jake's campaign and then especially into Ada's, the amount of content that you are just straight up replaying
just with different characters in the mix.
Yeah.
Like boss battles a second time.
Yeah.
What?
So it's like there's a boss battle in Leon's campaign.
So what's the implication there? That it's not that all these 4 things are happening simultaneously.
It is. Well, they are more or less are. Like they're with a couple.
The boss gets beaten and just like brushes himself off and gets back up.
No. You're playing the exact same event, but again in a different campaign. So like a boss battle you did with Leon.
So imagine.
So Leon is still there. You're just playing as.
Okay. So there's one of the major boss fights of Leon's campaign is essentially it's in a parking lot, but it's just a bunch of junked cars in a ring. So you're basically in an arena.
Yeah.
4 characters: Leon and his sidekick, Jake and his sidekick, all fighting this monster at once.
And you do that again.
You get to that sequence again as Jake. Exact same boss fight. Nothing different. Same cutscene, same everything.
And it's not even like what you did the first time around is impacting it.
Actually, you can speak to the elevator scene.
There's one. This is really minor. This it's
but it
not
speaks
even a big
volumes.
deal. But yeah, like I felt like this was just like a defining moment in this game. There's a part in Leon's campaign where you get into a facility and Chris is there, and you're on opposite sides of a wall with an elevator at the end. And all you're doing is racing for the door. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of laser tripwires you have to like slide under and stuff. And whoever gets there first takes the elevator, and the other person takes the stairs. I didn't get there in time as Leon, so I took the stairs. Mm-hmm. Then I played Chris's campaign. Mm-hmm. I didn't get there in time as Chris, so I took the stairs. Like they couldn't even be bothered to square that one insignificant event.
I wonder though.
So it felt like there was some continuity between those campaigns.
Is there a way to make it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I hit the lasers both times because I hate the way the sliding and stuff works in that game, but. You might be right. Maybe you have to take the stairs both times. But
yeah, it's hard to know.
Either way, it's bad that those things don't line up.
But then you start having to, like, this becomes just, like, weird writer's room shit. But then you have to start, like, trying to reconcile, like, if these are supposed to be, like, concurrent, canonical...
Well, the thing is that stuff they've done in previous Resident Evil games. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, 2 had that stuff where
that was one of the big hooks was replaying the game.
And if you picked up certain stuff, it wouldn't be there if you played the other campaign. And
they call it the AB, right? The AB system, I think. Yeah.
And so they ended up again when they first showed off the game earlier this year, or when they showed me a big chunk of it.
Zap system.
I asked them. I said, with these multiple campaigns, are you going back to that sort of setup? And they were extremely cagey about it. About whether or not that would be in there. They wouldn't commit one way or the other. They said, that's something we're thinking about. Yeah, but we're not, that's you could see along those lines. Like maybe there'd be something.
They didn't quite make it there.
Yeah,
man, just
anything about the co-op element that you want. I think it
works fine.
I think it's curious that you always describe the other character as their sidekick. Are they not are these secondary characters not really significant otherwise, or are they just bodies?
In the case of Leon and Chris both, they have contrived second characters purely for the co-op who are just as forgettable as characters could be in a game like this.
Okay.
No depth, completely flat.
They didn't try and dig out here's an old favorite that would dust it off.
For Jake, who is a new character, they brought Sherry Birkin in, who was like a little girl in RE2, but now she's all grown up and a special agent.
It's a cool callback. If you're gonna dig back into the fiction and pull someone out, Sherry's a good one to pick.
She's a good pull because she talks about stuff that happened in 2, and there's some weird stuff going on with her and her history.
Well, but in that case, they are making up a character who has a direct connection to another major significant Resident Evil character, the Wesker stuff. So that's fine, but
it's a contrivance that I can live with.
But the other two co-op characters are just invented out of whole cloth and seem to have no bearing on the long-term fiction of this game or the series at all. So that stuff's a shame. But the co-op works fine, but half the time the benefit of human co-op in a game like this is that the human player will actually do things well, as opposed to the typically shitty kind of sidekick AI.
Yeah.
But like he was saying, the AI is indestructible and has unlimited ammo in this game, so they actually do their job fine as AI.
They don't have to be that smart because they've made up for it with the other part.
It's sheer attrition, they can just brute force their way through every scenario because they can't be killed.
Except for the most talked about thing, which is fucking opening doors.
Yeah, I mean, so sometimes you have to go back and kill the enemy that they're engaged with, so that they'll disengage with that sort of aggro that they've created with that enemy.
Usually just kick their way out of that and come over. So really the biggest benefit of the co-op is just having somebody to bitch with as you go through.
It's a little frustrating that it has 3 campaigns that you're supposed to play interchangeably or can play interchangeably, and it can't maintain campaign statuses across 3 different ones. So I was nearly at the end of Chapter 5 with Leon when I joined up with Brad, and it does say in the menu, in chapter progress will be lost, but I think it's kind of crazy that it can't maintain chapter progress across different campaigns, or at least each chapter has a number of times where it breaks to a loading screen that it doesn't give you just access to each of those as mid-chapter points of a chapter.
Here's a save point. Here's a
hey, you don't get to save your status in the middle of this boss battle, clearly, but you can come back to the start of this boss battle if you want to go start with Chris.
It's purely because they didn't go to the trouble to subdivide each chapter. There are 5 chapters per character.
So if you get to the end of a chapter, and some of these chapters are pretty long, right?
Yeah,
I mean, 2 hours. Can be as long as 2 hours long. The shortest are 50 minutes.
Minimum of an hour.
And if you quit, obviously if you join another game, it does that. But if you just walk away from the game and come back, does it reset you to the start of a chapter at that point?
No.
So it does have checkpoints, just not that you can start from.
Right. It only lets you. It has one primary save, and that is it.
Like a Gears game will have 5 acts, but then they subdivide each act into multiple
chapters,
little segments that you can pick any one of to play. So,
but your point, Patrick, is that you had progress in a different campaign,
right?
Which is a different selection from the main menu.
Yeah, I could accept if if I was in chapter 1 and Chris and was joining Brad in chapter 3 of Chris, that hey, this is, that doesn't seem like they shouldn't be able to figure that out, but I could at least accept that. This is your completely different campaigns. There is no Zap or AB system where it is keeping track of your decisions across campaigns that are consequential. So there's no reason except the fact they just didn't build it in.
You were on the final form of the last boss.
I was 10 minutes.
Leon's entire game.
I was 10 minutes away as part of a chapter that is an hour and a half long.
Yeah, but by joining my Chris co-op game, he then had to go back and play through that entire chapter.
So I just put it on easy and blasted through it in 45 minutes. But it was just.
Did you still have to do that rope climb QuickTime event on easy?
Yeah,
really.
By far the worst QuickTime event in a video game.
I saw other people bitching on Twitter about that QuickTime event. That's how I knew we were not alone.
There were people there. I will not name them. Several people that DM me afterwards, I spent 30 minutes on that sequence because I couldn't figure it out.
It's all it is climbing a rope. They use this 4 times throughout the game, they're climbing stuff, but it's literally just alternating the triggers. That's all it is. It seems like it should be so simple.
The way they show it on screen is not. That's not how you have to do it with your hands. It says on screen, just hit left trigger, then hit right trigger. But if you do that, he will fall.
Yeah.
And you have to be holding down both triggers, then release one, figure out which arm goes up. Then you always pretty much have to have 2 fingers on both the triggers and only release it when you can figure out when his arm goes up, because the moment you release it, you fall like 30 feet and you have to do like 45 seconds all over again.
That's how I finally got good at it, by ignoring the button prompt and looking at the character and just mapping my trigger to his arm movements.
I thought maybe he had a glitch. Like I was flabbergasted when I encountered it. I remember texting you being like, this is wrong. Like, this shouldn't be here in the first place. It's a fucking rope. Yeah. You know, this is the equivalent of like using the dual or the dual shock to like go across, the logs in Uncharted. Like, this is just bullshit that does not need to be in video games anymore. Like, it's not. No part of it is fun.
Or doesn't need to be as counterintuitive.
Just let me press up. Come on.
Yeah.
Or even just it doesn't need to be as player
X.
involved.
Yeah, hit X.
Right. Just make it a cutscene.
Like, for all the other stuff that gets automated over the course of the game. Like this is not the part that you should be putting a lot of loving and hair trigger control into.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in that vein, the lack of tutorial information in this game, the lack of like explanation of here's how the rolls work, here's how you duck, here's how you dive onto your back and keep shooting.
Right.
Totally non-existent. There's no manual.
It's like relegated to loading screens, right?
Yeah.
But there's a control layout that you can pull up in the game.
When you pause it or whatever.
But there are all sorts of like little rule sets that aren't explained. Like if you're playing co-op with somebody, it doesn't matter if it's an AI partner because they have infinite health. But if you're playing co-op with somebody, if you get your health tablets, and it's not a first aid spray, but the health tablet specifically, if you stand next to your co-op buddy, you'll both gain health. Never explained in the game. It's just if you happen to get that loading screen, then you'll finally learn that rule set.
On my Xbox at home, I don't know if it's variable hard drive speed or something, but it loads fast enough that I never have time to read that stuff. Like, it just blinks off.
Yeah.
And I was never able to absorb that information. But the game has a tutorial. They just don't tell you any of this important gameplay stuff in there. They make damn sure you know how all the QuickTime events work in that tutorial.
Great.
They're all in there, except for the rope climb. But none of the advanced shooting stuff, and it is way more idiosyncratic about stuff like rolling and dodging than something like a Gears is, which is just literally hit A in a direction.
Yeah.
Like this is you have to be holding left trigger to aim. You have to hit essentially A and a direction at the same time to perform the dodge, because if you just hit A while you're aiming, you'll do a duck instead. It's very picky, very finicky about the timing of this stuff, and they never address any of it.
The stickiness of the cover never felt right.
Yeah, they never tell you there's a cover system until you just stumble into it.
Yeah, and even when you do know, I mean, there's not many instances other than in Chris's campaign where it's even useful. But I just, in a Gears game or any game with like decent cover, you feel like there's something rock solid about when you're going to go into cover. Like you know what you're clicking onto, and I never got that sense in Resident Evil.
Can you pause the game?
So
if
when you start a campaign in this, when you start a game, you are picking: do I want this to be like an online open invite game, or system link, or offline? So if you pick offline at that initial menu, and this is the only way you can actually pause what's happening in the game, then you can hit start, and it'll just say pause, and you can't do anything.
Okay.
But even in an offline game, fiddling with your inventory, or even trying to change like control settings or the fucking brightness.
That's all
happens in real time.
Wow, so system stuff is still happening.
System levels, you want to change the color of your laser sight.
That's fucking stupid.
Or up the brightness. You got to find a place where nobody's around.
Lost Planet 2 kind of had that same problem, right?
And that was stupid then.
Where if you could set it to offline, you could pause it. But
if the best we could do is compare this game to Lost Planet 2.
I'm just saying. I mean,
you're right.
Maybe it's a systemic Capcom problem.
Maybe, yeah.
And I understand the nature of like, if you've got a co-op game, then and you've got people potentially joining, pausing is not really an option.
You're right in that case. But when you're playing
it could be, but I understand why you wouldn't. I mean, Borderlands actually doesn't necessarily let you.
Sure.
Like you'll get hit when you're in menus for shops and stuff like that sometimes, and it happens. But
I think there's still a line though between like in-game, in-universe stuff and just system...
and like turning on subtitles or something like that. Yeah, that's super stupid. I'm not defending that, but
I think this
is something that Capcom has had trouble with and maybe not gotten right in the past. That's all I'm saying.
The idea for that stuff in RE5, like talking to those guys, it sounded like that was deliberate to create a greater sense of urgency.
Right.
Like that's really what they were trying to do with that whole game was, put the screws to the player, is, make it seem like danger is imminent at all times. Even when you're going into a menu and fiddling with your inventory or trading stuff with another player, you should know that while you're trading stuff, fucking zombies are coming for you.
Sure.
And I think that that's valid, and it seemed like it was super effective in the past. But
I mean, that's all of Zombie U is based around that concept, basically.
But losing, no doubt. But losing the focus and having that apply even in a game that you say, look, I'm not playing with anyone else. This is an offline game.
Right.
Call it there at the top that I can't go into system shit. Just seems
It's insane. It's just one of those. Why would you do this?
Who's running this ship?
I don't think anybody had their hand on the rudder for this.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So RE6 TNT this week.
Oh,
good.
Man.
Yeah,
I thought about it.
Into it.
I haven't. I've been so.
You haven't gotten.
I mean, Mercenaries is a good mode.
I have been so up campaigns ass that I haven't played Mercenaries. I haven't played Agent Hunt, which actually sounds kind of cool. Which is that if you are playing campaign and you leave it to set to like just Xbox Live, and you turn on Agent Hunt in the options before you go in, what that is you can match into those games as an enemy.
See, that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
right.
So you can match in there, presumably transparently. I don't know if they can see your gamer tag or what, because I haven't tried it, but you can pop in there and become like a zombie dog or some kind of monster and go after the players in their own game, which sounds cool.
Sure.
Sounds like a good idea.
Mind Jack.
Yeah, kind of like that. But again, when just the very fundamental way that you engage with the game and play it sucks,
Yeah.
all those peripheral frills are just kind of like whatever.
Who cares about the bells and whistles?
Yeah. Man,
Oh, Brad, I'm sorry.
it's fine.
I'm sorry.
Somebody had to do it.
I'm sorry for not even for the assignment. I'm sorry for you.
Thank you.
For having Resident Evil be crappy.
That's the thing. The greatest tragedy of all this is that you only get one main Resident Evil like every 3 years or so, and this is it for a while, and this is what they put out. Like, it could have been great. I feel like, do you feel like 6 more months of play testing, and like I know everybody hates the word polish, but like this game is sorely lacking in it, would have helped? I mean, like just tightening the controls, making the aim feel better.
It seems like that's the sort of thing
fixing
that,
the camera,
would have gotten done if the right people were in place.
You're right. You're right.
I'm not sure if that would have changed.
Yeah.
This seems like a more fundamental core design issue than it is anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to know, but I don't think
it's not
6
like the
months of
game
playtesting would have changed it.
Was
rushed.
Yeah, rushed
Like,
or short
right.
on budget.
Yeah.
I mean, like the game was
They moved it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they moved
Yeah.
it up. It seemed like it was went gold like sometime during the summer. Like they were done. They were happy with it. So
Well, they were done.
yeah,
I mean, you're right. The thing you said right at the top of, it sounds like everything you're doing in this game is the same stuff you've done in past games, in the last couple games. Like,
Right.
That's more or less true. It's just that you don't do it as well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that's confusing people. There are people out there that are going like, "How is this possible?
Right,
This game's obviously
right.
great, and you people are out of your mind."
And there were even people.
No,
There were even people saying, maybe justifiably so, after watching the quick look, like this doesn't look as bad as you're saying it is.
but it's all feel.
But yeah, it's something you have to get your hands on and feel for yourself.
I'll support that. I mean,
Yeah.
when they first showed it off and they were playing it, they were playing that early Leon stuff, and I was like, man, this actually looks pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And they were getting down and rolling around and doing stuff. And I was like, man, this maybe they're finally going to make the Resident Evil game for me.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing, and I don't know why I do it, but I seem to go into every numbered Resident Evil game going like, maybe I'll be into this one. Like everyone else seems to like this thing so fucking much. Like,
Right.
What is it with me? But no, this is not the one.
no, clearly not.
Yeah, I don't think this is for anybody.
it's gonna sell well though. I think it will.
Oh, you're probably right.
I bet it won't sell as well as they
Need it to.
maybe had
5 sold
forecast.
really, really well.
Yeah, but 5 was also well received
Yeah.
and
Yep.
didn't have like pre-release word of mouth that was absolutely killing it.
It's true. I mean, the
racist stuff in some ways probably propelled interest into that game.
Yeah.
I mean, not to bring. But I mean,
You're right.
it-
Maybe we shouldn't be surprised about this. I mean,
Oh, the
buzz-
racist stuff in 5. I was going to say,
Yeah.
oh, wait, is there more racist shit?
Well,
in 6?
so actually, I did start to notice that they've essentially just like started defining their ethnic zombie groups with every game now, because in this one we have Chinese zombies and Eastern European zombies. Those are the two.
So what you're saying within each game that they
it seems like
sequester the zombies to specific ethnic groups,
But the
for easier identification.
the unique zombies in this one, called the Juavo, all wear masks. They all wear ceramic masks, so you can't see who they actually are.
Problem solved.
And I wonder if that was a direct response.
That almost sounds like that's interesting commentary. That almost sounds like that's the developers. Like, fine, they're no one. They're everyone.
Yeah.
might be giving them too much credit.
It's all I've got.
There's a couple.
All I can do is read into it.
There's a couple of little moments here and there in the story that are genuinely affecting in like really kind of unsettling ways. Like the very first scene of Jake's campaign, because he's a mercenary, he's been running with these guys who turn into these Juavo. Like the very first scene is these mercs like eagerly shooting themselves up with C virus, like just syringes of C virus, not knowing what it is, and like Ada Wong is there telling them like, "Oh, this shit'll amp you up, like you will fucking kill everything." Is the message with this stuff, and it's really perverse.
Yeah,
because like you see these guys are essentially like turning over their humanity in exchange for being badass, so they can make more money as a merc, right?
Yeah,
and then they all turn into fucking monsters, and that's it. You know, it's just like it.
And that could be a cool hook for a story, like the idea that like the Umbrella Corporation like reforms itself to become like this underground drug.
Yeah,
like there are interesting angles to be taken with like this viral idea.
For about 30 seconds of that campaign, I was like, "Shit, this is actually like this is kind of hitting me in a way," and then it just
right. It's like take the thing that's always been the liability and what everyone has run away from, and let's spin this into a positive.
Right.
Let's let marketing take care of it for us.
But then stuff just goes
like
back
real
to
pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But then then stuff just immediately goes back to exploding.
Yeah.
And you fight a bunch of 20-foot tall monsters, and that's it.
Do they gin up reasons for like Nemesis to show up again, or
no? But the Jake campaign is all about a single super powerful unkillable monster chasing you throughout the entire campaign. It totally
That's
is.
actually kind of true. I mean, it's a little weird that they wouldn't, if you're going to do all these callbacks, that you wouldn't put in like any monster callbacks. Like
straight up say, "Oh, there's Nemesis again."
Well,
I mean, this guy basically is Nemesis, except his name
you've got
is...
dogs, you got zombies, but like, there's no lickers from RE2.
Yeah, you're right. There's some good monster design here and there.
Yeah, there's some. It's
very
much the Thing territory, is how I decide.
I feel like some of the Resident Evil school of monster design is getting really by the numbers. It's a lot of bony, like armor plating with a bunch of exposed sinews, and they all look like animals.
All right, that's enough Resident Evil 6 talk for now.
I'm gonna beat it.
You're gonna beat it.
I'm halfway.
We'll talk about Resident Evil 6 some more at a later date.
Yeah.
I look forward to your continuing thoughts.
Yeah.
Still a lot to think about.
Review forthcoming.
Yeah, very, very shortly. Don't buy Resident Evil 6.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a review. It was very shortly.
Short, concise.
Bringing it home.
Yeah.
Advocate reviewer.
I mean, yeah, sorry, I'm about my critical activism here.
Wait, was someone like volleying that about as an insult?
Oh, no. The term activist reviewers became a thing on NeoGAF.
It was a joke, though.
It began as a joke, but I'm sure somebody took it seriously.
It was like the meme that was coming out of people that were having irrational responses to a lot of the reviews.
What it was that some people were claiming the existence of an orchestrated vendetta against Japanese games, and that this being like the pinnacle of that.
Oh, I love crazy people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And their craziness. I'm looking forward to hearing Vinny Caravella's thoughts on this.
Yes, I was thinking that too.
That's a man that played the shit out of Resident Evils 4 and 5.
Yeah, me and him both played 5 to death.
You guys did 5
together.
To death.
We played all the way through professional together.
So curious to see where he stands on
I'm sure he'll play it. I mean, if you love Resident Evil and you really need to see everything that exists in that series, wait until it hits $20. 6 months from now, and know what you're getting into. But don't rush out there and spend full price on this thing.
There are other games that should be played instead.
Yeah.
Does this at least, like, without getting into specifics, does this
story-wise?
Yeah.
Yes, but it only wraps what it starts itself.
Okay.
Like it has all this new stuff, and I haven't seen the end of Ada. Who knows? I bet there's something.
I'm just trying to think like this is the second cycle. This is the end of the second cycle of Resident Evil. The first 3 games represented an era of Resident Evil.
Sure.
And it pretty much went dormant between then. Like there was weird little side story stuff, but it went dormant until 4 and 4. The series totally reinvented itself, and now we are seeing that play out over 3 games.
Yes, yeah. Although this has been a really disjointed kind of cycle because, like I said, 4 threw everything out the window but then 5 brought it right back to Umbrella, and now this game feels like it shouldn't exist. So
But I even think like not even like in an orchestrated like Capcom intended this sort of way, but just the audience's appetite for or tolerance of certain things of like, man, it was amazing in the first Resident Evil, and then they do this crazy story twist on the second one, and by the third game, I don't fucking care about Resident Evil anymore. You know?
Yeah, totally.
And I feel like we've seen a kind of similar pattern play out here in the second trilogy.
Curious to see which Shinji Mikami is working on right now.
I can't. Like there's art out there.
Kind of forgot that his company got bought by Bethesda, and he's working on a survival horror game.
I had forgotten about that too until all this hubbub started. But if you go to the page for that game, he's straight up saying we're making a survival horror game, like
for real. Like we're not shying away
nothing about
from
RE6 is survival horror if you try to extrapolate that as like gameplay conventions from specifically the first 2 games. Less so in 4, but a little bit in 4. Definitely not in 5. If he's going back to some of those roots, like which is like a superb action game in a horror environment, which is what my RE fandom basically shifted to Dead Space. Dead Space was achieving what I wanted from those types of games, which is like solid action, fun thrills, and a lot of tension. Like Dead Space was doing that while RE was going in this action direction that I didn't care for as much. But
I'm with you. It's time to reboot. It's time for the Resident Evil.
I'll take it
on the next consoles.
Sure.
Not made by
Just
Capcom.
Fucking flush everything and start over. Can you imagine?
Maybe Spark will be looking for something once Lost Planet's done.
They're also working on Yaba.
Oh, that's
Yaba.
right. Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden Z.
Imagine
they'll have zombie experience. This is perfect.
Imagine
all part of Inafune's grand design. Man. I leave and then give you Spark Unlimited.
Right. I'm telling you, man.
My gift to you.
Inspector Chris Redfield in Victorian England.
Just all right.
Just fucking everything out the window. Start over.
Sure.
I love the idea of nothing but character names returning.
Even if they wanted to take some of these characters, like clearly they're not going to whole cloth ditch everything.
Yeah.
But if set it, like RE4, like look, do the thing that you want to do with a franchise, which is take a core character that people care about, so there's some sort of founding, and then just take it somewhere else, strip it from everything else. I do not expect them to start from square one, but I would love them to do an RE4 style breakaway.
All right, let me pitch you on this. See if this grabs you. Rookie cop Leon P. Kennedy.
What?
It's his son?
What?
It's different. It's just it's different.
What's the P stand for? What's the P stand for?
Yeah, well, you'll find out over the course of the next 3 games.
Oh, it's a trilogy.
Yeah. Our dark middle chapters where you get really close to finding out what his
I
middle name
want a
is.
trilogy that's nothing but dark middle chapters. The dark middle chapter is always the best one. Let's just cut out the fat.
What if you had a trilogy made up of nothing but dark middle chapters?
That's what I'm saying.
How dark would that middle one be?
Oh, it'd be the best. Oh my god.
My life is a dark middle chapter.
Like let's create 3 different series, right?
Oh.
But then let's just ditch the first and last game from all of them and then take the middle chapters and string those together. Nothing but tragedy and everyone getting fucking murdered constantly. Like comic books have gotten fantastic mileage over the years, not just of like, hey, it's a fucking reboot. Like they do that for sure. We're going to pretend like that stuff didn't happen and we're going to kind of do it over, but a little bit different.
But they want to take the characters and the setting and just like say, hey, it's an alternate universe. Or like Star Trek did, like with the reboot. It's like, hey, it's all the same stuff and it's familiar, but
they don't
get to ignore all the other timelines.
To me, that's a pretty traditional kind of reboot. Like they justify it better than a lot bother to. But what the stuff in comic books that I always enjoy the most is like what Brad's saying of like, all right, take the convention, take the scenario, take the things that you are familiar with, and then put it into a different setting. Like they've done like revolutionary era Marvel characters.
Yeah. You know what
and that stuff was fucking fascinating. Of like, okay, how do we take these archetypes and these things that are familiar and make it work in this other context?
The one I was thinking about was Gotham by Gaslight.
That's a great one.
Steampunk Batman.
Yeah,
basically.
But I think that's that's one of the cool things about the Assassin's Creed series. Is they do get to lift a lot, they remove themselves from their existing kind of timeline, existing setting.
They do have license to just jump all over the place.
And then get somewhere else and then try to plug those systems in and still have, enough similarity to where you're not, starting from scratch, but, it's the stuff you like from those other games taken to this entirely different setting.
And so far with Assassin's Creed, that's been when it's been the most exciting has been when it's made those shifts.
Yeah.
Of like, okay, now we're going to Venice, and it's like, oh shit, this feels very different, and everything that we've seen of 3, looks extremely different, but still has the familiar stuff that you understand roles and you understand kind of the basics of this is how the world works. So I think if Capcom wanted to go that direction with Resident Evil rather than, doggedly sticking to this single reality convention, they could get a lot of mileage out of that.
Sure. At the end of the day, they just need a vision.
Yeah.
And that's what RE6 lacks.
But that's the problem for all of Capcom stuff is what we were saying earlier for 6 is who's handling the rudder, who's at the controls here, who is it that has the vision to come up with something like that and then execute on it. If the best we're getting is, designed by committee or just, pandering to whatever we think people want, that's what we're going to give them.
So maybe this gives them a clean break. That's what generation cycles are supposed to be about.
Right.
And, maybe RE6 is, just another victim of, this generation playing out longer. They felt the need to make another game.
Right. They had time.
That doesn't excuse a bad game.
Yeah.
But maybe explains why a lot of it feels stretched. It's hard to make a real clean break when we're still on this set of consoles. So maybe we'll get it next time.
So, Brad, you've been consumed by Resident Evil 6.
Pretty much, yeah. It's so long.
Took you over.
Fuck.
Any other games that you want to talk about?
It never ends. Every time I would finish a cinematic and it would hit a loading screen, I would be fucking praying, like, that's got to be the end of the chapter, right? It never was.
Yeah, even the way it breaks up the chapters is insane because moments where it's like, all right, we have reached an end point, and then it will keep going, and then it's like, no, you don't understand how chapters work. Like, chapters are the end of a plot point.
Like they almost have no understanding of rising and falling action and like natural places to break up the story, and it just keeps going and going and going.
Resident Evil.
Who are they, Kojima?
Oh, man. Oh. All right.
Kojima just says, always rising.
Yeah.
Just, no, crank it up more. End of that one, more cranking. Now robots. Now he's a robot.
A lot of cranks in Resident Evil. So.
It's true. A lot of levers, a lot of valves.
Mm-hmm. Are there colored keys? Are there crests?
No. A couple.
Are there...
I put together a broken crest out of 3 pieces today and laid it into a door.
Are there typewriter ribbons?
No, but the save icon is a typewriter. Every time it auto-saves. All right. I got something nice to say about Resident Evil 6. Let's do this.
Stand the fuck back.
So... there's a decent number of like contextual environment kills, kind of Uncharted style.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Yes, I do know what you're talking about.
Most of them are fine. They look okay, except when the camera freaks out on them, which looks horrible. Mm-hmm. There's one enemy that is a hand.
It's just a hand.
Well, it's actually a whole enemy, but you shoot at the pieces, but its pieces keep coming at you.
Okay.
And one of the enemies is its hands.
Okay.
Which it'll jump on you, and you know what? This is also cool. When it jumps and attaches on you, it cuts to first person, and you basically see alien facehugger style, just this hand like palming your face in first person.
Okay, so you go to first person of the character being attacked.
As you're wiggling the stick trying to get it off.
At first, I thought you meant you went to first person of the hand.
No.
Which would have been terrifying in its own way.
That would have been pretty crazy, too.
I was like, oh, God, I can see what the hand sees. How does the hand see anything?
The hand has eyes.
Yeah.
I don't think a hand gripped to your face could kill you.
Well, it doesn't do much damage. It's mostly just occupying you while the other pieces of this monster
all right.
beating the shit out of you.
So I'm just thinking, like, you can plug someone's mouth. Plug in the mouth of the nose with the hard.
It's terrifying, though. Would you want someone doing that?
But again,
poke the eyes out.
That
first person
view.
First
person view of this hand.
Depending on who it was, maybe.
I paid for that before. I'm not going to lie.
Anyway, that's not the cool part. When you pull this thing off,
pull the hand off of you.
You see these things throughout the game. Usually it's just kind of whatever. You throw them, they die. Mm-hmm. But you're on a ship at one point.
Okay.
And when you grab one of these hands in the galley, near a microwave. You throw the fucking hand in the microwave. Battle is raging around you.
Yes.
There are like 8 monsters. Your partner's going apeshit.
Yeah.
You take a pause.
Yes.
Chris Redfield takes a pause to place this hand in the microwave, close the door, enter a time, and hit start. And the
It would be one thing to like huck it in there and slam the door and then keep going because you're like, all right, it's occupied.
It's closed in there, but no. And then you see it like explode in the microwave.
But so it's not even just like he hits like 1 for instant for just like,
or maybe
just a
you
minute.
know what, he might just hit quick start. Who knows?
Because I was just saying if he actually pressed like
Maybe
1 0 0,
maybe it's a newer microwave.
Start.
With a quick
microwaves
start
of 2013. We have no idea what they're going to be like.
It's true.
The future of microwave
true.
technology.
Capcom
seriously.
does.
Yeah,
especially microwaves at sea. So also later on, you fight those things in a bathroom, and if you pick one up near the toilet, he straight up jams it in the toilet and flushes it.
I don't think that would work. I don't think that would work. That's unrealistic.
Spins around. You see the hand just like spinning around.
Okay.
You ever try to flush your own hand down the toilet?
And then
it
goes
doesn't
down
work.
the drain.
And your hand gets really cold because the water rushes by. It's cold water.
But it's a ship toilet. We don't know how those work.
It's true.
That's a great point.
Serious suction on those things.
Okay. All right.
It is not a standard residential turlet.
Anyway, those 2 moments, those 2 10-second interludes, I was like, all right, Resident Evil 6.
I will say that yesterday,
Well played.
that was the only moment of joy I saw from you was
Pretty much
was when
yeah.
the hand stuff happened.
So yeah, Resident Evil 6, 20 seconds of quality content.